Good evening, friends. Today we are going to take up an especially important topic, which is very hotly discussed in any manufacturing. How do you manage and eliminate the wastage into the system? Okay. And let me just share the screen for a moment. So most of the time, people would focus on removing the wastage from the system. But I think it is very important to understand that where does this wastage come from? And without understanding the root causes, the effects of wastages can keep on reoccurring. So Muri Mura Muda are three specific manufacturing levels which Toyota identified in the manufacturing systems in its never-ending quest to improve the production. Muda is more known as waste. Mura is the unevenness in the system, and Muri is the overburden cost in the system. Large organized companies mostly do not look at Muda only, but they also look at the Mura and Muri. So they take Muri, Mura, Muda, all the three of them together. They just don't look at the Muda in an isolated manner over here. Okay. Just one second. Yeah, okay. So while the normal way of saying is, if you talk to the people, they will always say Muda, Mura, Muri. We will discuss them in a slightly changed order. And first, we will try to understand what are the three ends of lean. We need to understand that thereafter that what is the Muri, which is the waste of overburden. We will follow it up along with Mura, waste of unevenness. And then finally, we'll take up the Muda, which are nothing but the 7 waste identified in the lean. And as you would go through it, you would realize that why we have taken this particular entire series or the sequence. So let's understand the three ends of lean, Muri, Mura, Muda, and we will discuss each one of them more in detail. But before we go into that, let's understand the background. Where do these terms come from? So these terms, Muri, Mura, Muda, are not inventions by Toyota. These terms have been existing for quite some time. And just one second, I think there is some. Am I audible to everyone? Kishore, am I audible or?
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay, all right, fine. So as I was saying that these terms are not, defined or invented by Toyota. Rather, these terms were existing in the Japanese martial art long way before even Toyota started utilizing them. And in martial art, any excess movement in combat is a waste because it tires out the athlete and leaves them open for an attack. Similarly, any uneven or unnatural movement or thought or an unnatural stance will also hinder your actions. Okay? And finally, trying to do too much at the same time or using techniques that you have not yet mastered is overburden. So if you look from that angle, wastage, unevenness, and overburden, all the three things have been, part of the martial arts, and that's where these terminologies of the Muda, Mura, Muri actually came. Okay. There is also a similarly, explanation of these terminologies. As the story goes, Muri is made up of two kanjis, Mu and Ri. Okay. Mu stands for unreasonable and Ri stands for the king of the village. Okay. Collectively, they both are translated as totally unreasonable, which in other words, Muri means something that cannot be accepted. Okay. Now, if we take that into the factory, in a manufacturing factory, we would translate the Muri into overburden of machines, people, and processes, because overload will make the production break down. It is, and that is totally unreasonable. So Muri should be the first thing which we should focus to reduce. Mura starts with the same phonetic sounds as the Muri and Muda, but its kanji is completely different. So it consists of only one symbol, that means unevenness. If you have Mura in your process, you will get uneven output, and unevenness is the enemy of balance and stability. So in a manufacturing setting, this is the second thing which you should, reduce. Muda starts with the same kanji prefix as Mura. So hence we look at the second kanji, which is the Da, and Da means horse. So in the Middle Age, horses were always the vital important animal, and as you would know, the horses actually have come from the Far East. They are not, Asian animals, but they were brought into the Japanese also. And horses have to be fit and strong. The worst thing which you could always have in a war was have a fat horse. Okay, a horse which could not run faster or which could not, move agilely. So you cannot use a fat horse, and yet you must have, if you have a horse, you still have to care for it and feed it. So that horse actually becomes unusable to you. So fat horse become the waste, and that waste must be avoided. And you could certainly not just stand there and stare at this kind of the waste happening into your organization. So what we normally say is Muri, Mura, and Muda, or if I translate it back into a different way, unworthy kings on a fat horse. Okay, so if there is a king who is not useful to the or unreasonable and who is not useful to the village, and on top of it he is on a fat horse, he really will not be effective into the war. So that's why there's a story of the kings and the fat horses actually go into it. Okay. So just a lighter side of it. So the most common misunderstanding is that we see the lean only as a method to reduce the waste. Okay. We always say that let's remove the Muda. Those who start the waste hunting lean projects, they will never be able to achieve the breakthrough improvements and will never be able to build a culture of continuous improvement. Okay. When the Toyota introduced the Toyota production system, they learned early on that there are two other enemies of productivity, which are Muri and Mura. Okay. Simply taking out Muda doesn't work. Usually there has to be some reason that why that wastage is there, why that Muda is there. And this reason often has to do with the other two enemies, which is Mura and Muri. And if you combine them up, this means that three enemies together are interrelated and should be taken in account simultaneously. They should not be independently trying to be addressed. They all go hand in hand over here. So if we look back and try to understand the relationship between Muri, Mura and Muda and take a very common example. So if you go to the Muri, Mura, Muda and search around, you will always find this diagram. And this diagram is a good example of explaining what is Muri, Mura, Muda. Okay. So as I said earlier, Muri, Mura, Muda are interrelated, and eliminating one of them will affect the other. Okay. So let's take this example. In the first top part, there is a truck with the 6 tons of material to be transported to a customer, and there are several options to do that thing. So let's look at the first option, that is load one truck with 6 tons and make a single truck. Okay. However, in this example, it would be considered Muri because it is overburdened the truck. If the truck is overloaded, it can actually break down. And if it breaks down, it will not deliver the material to you. Okay. Now, the second option is that let's divide the transportation into 2 trips, one with 2 tons and other with the 4 tons. Now, yes, it is not becoming overburdened, but at the same time, it will be considered Mura since there is an unevenness of the arrival of material to the customer and lead to the problems at the receiving door. So in the first trip, the delivery may be too little for the production necessary on the site. And in the second trip, the amount of delivered material may be too much for the on-site storage and material handling. So it becomes uneven, right? And this is what we call as the Muri, since one of the truck is overburdened and the receiver is also overburdened for that delivery. Additionally, we can also see the wastage occurring from the uneven workload. And this can cause the employees who receive the material to wait around. So they will wait around for the next lot to come and then work upon it. So this also generates a wastage. Now the third option is that load the 2 tons on each truck and make the 3 trips. Now, if you look from this angle, there is no overburden, there is no unevenness, there is a smooth flow of 3 trucks coming with the 2 tons per truck. Okay. However, it is still will be Muda Because the capacity of the truck is 3 tons and you're loading it only for the 2 tons. So you are underutilizing your truck, right? So each truck now is, underutilized and you're making one unnecessary trip. So the fourth option which we can now look up is to deliver the material with 2 trucks, each with the 3 tons. Now what happens is there is no Mura, there is no Muri, there is no Muda. This is an optimum level over here. Why there is no Muda? Because each truck is loaded to their maximum capacity. There is no excess capacity per truck, or there is no unnecessary trip with this strategy. There is no excess workload between the 2 deliveries because the 2 deliveries are now uniform and hence there is no unevenness. And finally, there is no Muri also because both the trucks and operators are not working beyond their capacity. So this is what normally we define as the Muri, Mura, Muda. Okay? In the real world application of lean, it's not always very easy or possible to find an optimal solution. So this is good to give an example and talk about it, but in reality, it's a very challenging scenario. And only by considering the variety of the impacts of the Muda, Muri and optimizing our production strategy, we can develop an efficient lean system. So a quick overview I thought I wanted to give you over here between the 3 M's and their relationship. Now, let's dive deep into each of these 3 M's. So as I said in the beginning, most of the people would say that let's attack the wastage. Let's remove the Muda. Okay. We will not get into that because this always will also create some Muri or overburden for the operators and machines rather than relieving them of this stress. Okay. So right way is that let's look at tackling the Muri in our process first along with the Mura, and then we will find a lot of things which are actually the wastages within our processes, and probably while we are trying to ease out Mura and Muri, a lot of Muda might be automatically removed also, and it might become easy for us to remove the rest of the wastages. So we look from the Muri, Mura, Muda. Okay. Before we go back in this chart, if you see, it's a very simple thing that my capacity is low, but I'm loading up more. Okay, and that's what I'm trying to define it as an overburden over here. Okay. So let's look at some examples. And as you look through this list, I'm not going to read out this list. You will also see that this Muri actually covers a host of the problems within both manufacturing as well as the service companies. And these problems actually lead to more problems and waste within our processes. Okay. So we often fail to tackle these areas, with some practitioners actually concentrating instead on improving the time taken to do individual steps in the process by moving a few things around and then claiming that, oh, I've saved so much of the time, while actually what they have done is that they have made the work very hard for the operator in the machine with no real benefit coming to the overall process. Okay. So I can always shuffle around the things, but those shuffling around the things do not actually solve the problem. So tackling the Muri within a process has to ensure that your employees can work far more efficiently and with minimal stress within your processes. Okay. So let's see that how do you reduce the Muri. So first of all, there can be a lot of elements of Muri, and these elements you can identify in terms of being unrealistic tasks, overloading, unnatural movements, poor design, poor ergonomics, and so on and so forth. And all of these things lead to the overburden. Okay? In certain cases, it is extra work which you have to do. In certain cases, it's the heavy fatigue which you have to endure, and so on and so forth. Okay? We normally would use to address the Muri the tools like 5S, standardization, TPM, Jidoka, SMAD, and so on to remove the overburden. I don't know how many of you would also remember, or if you have used the lean, you will also realize that most of these tools also are the foundation in the house of lean. That means that they focus on stabilizing your shop floor and indirectly address your overburden in your processes efficiently. Okay, so this is how we actually focus on reducing the Muri. Let's look in each of them quickly. 5S, I think almost everybody knows. So I'm not going to define what is 5S. But 5S is extremely simple, however, very powerful methodology, and it tackles a wide range of the overburden within any workspace. It seeks to remove the unreasonable movement and stress by ensuring that everything is exactly where it should be for the most efficient use. If you remember sort, second order, and everything, ensure that everything is in its own place. There is a place for everything, and everything is in its place, right? So when you have that, that is where it ensures that there is no unreasonable movement and it reduces the overall stress. It also ensures that your layout is clear and deviations from what is required are very obvious to everyone, enabling issues to be corrected immediately. Okay. So if you have a well implemented 5S, it will ensure that your employees have a highly efficient, ergonomic, and safe working environment that would make their life significantly easier, ensuring that the stresses are significantly reduced. So that's how the 5S will be used for the mooring. Next, standardization. So 5S would begin the process of standardization by default. Having your processes fully documented, everyone trained in the best way of performing them, all this ensures that everyone is able to do the work easily and in the best way possible. Okay? And when you start defining the standard operating instructions or procedures, then they allow you to easily communicate the best way of doing the things. So your operators can create simple instructions. They can do that on their own. They don't have to depend upon others, right? And they can ensure that they're fully engaged in developing the best way of working. Okay? So standardizations help out over there. Any standard operating procedure which you develop, if you cover into that the all aspects of your machine, which could include from machine setups and changeovers through to how to deliver and bill your customers and so on, it will always help you to improve your productivity on the shop floor and also remove the burden on one resource in terms of man or machine either way. Okay. Then using Kaizens and other initiatives to continuously challenge your ways of working also will help you to indirectly, push for the improvements into your SOP, and which again becomes a cyclic thing. The improved SOPs help you to work better, and then the further better working asks you for continuous improvement and then Kaizens and so on. So that becomes a cyclic kind of a thing over here. The third thing, which again is a part of your stabilization process of House of Lean, is TPM. Okay, so 5S and TPM, they go hand in hand. Once you have got the 5S in place, that forms a foundation, and on top of that foundation, you build up the TPM. Okay, so TPM is nothing but another lean manufacturing tool, and it should be fully implemented if you want to reduce the Muri within your processes. I'm sure that you have gone through the 8 pillars of the TPM, so I'm not going to talk about that. They are listed out into the slide. Okay. So if you have a well-planned and thought-out maintenance, and then that's something which will ensure that you do not have any kind of the downtimes or any kind of the breakdowns or any kind of the standstill period and unavailability of your machines. So if that happens, that itself helps you to achieve the higher monthly figures, because highly available machines will also ensure the higher production overall. And there is always a battle between the production and the maintenance people for the release of the machines, and normally a lot of blame keeps on being thrown around when things do not work out as expected. So if you have the TPM in place, then this whole blame game and this whole fight for having the machines available, that goes up, and that itself ensures that the disruptions are low. There are no problems with your tools and equipment and so on and so forth, and your production starts increasing. So that's another tool which we use for removing the Muri. Jidoka is the next one which we use. I'm sure you know that Jidoka is basically a lean tool, and that's something which most of the people in the lean implementation do not use it, and some people actually try to retrofit their existing machines with some kind of automation which will help them to identify some kind of the failures and stop the machine whenever there is a failure occurring. Okay, So Jidoka is one thing which again can be used very heavily. I don't know if you have recently bought any new machine, then probably that new machine might already have got a Jidoka built into it, which maybe, identifying a failure into the product or a defect in the product, and then either sending you out some signals or sending out some kind of a warning or flashing of the lights or something, or maybe even stopping the machine, depending upon how critical it is. But it helps you to not let a defect pass on to the next stage of production. Okay? So if you have the Jidoka in your processes over here, then again it helps you to reduce the Muri getting built up into your entire processes over here. Okay, so that's another tool. The next tool which you can use is SMAD, single minute exchange of die. Now this is again a very simple process and again related to the 5S and also to TPM, and it concentrates specifically on the machine setup. We reduce the setup times to ensure that we have the flexibility with our machines to run the smaller batches. And running the smaller batches helps us to smooth out our production and also make the things more flexible. Okay, I'll talk about the smaller batches maybe a bit later as well once again. But this is another area where most of us actually make a mistake by assuming that I can do the large batches and I can take out the maximum production in one single batch, but it actually could be counterproductive. And more you have got the smaller batches, then probably even the machine setup also requires to be changed often. So that time, the single minute exchange of die, this concept becomes very important to ensure that there is a smooth changeover using the right equipment, process, and also with the fully trained individuals. So, and there are 7 steps which I'm not going to again speak over here. They're already listed here. For the Muri, let's look at the Mura. Okay. Mura is unevenness or inconsistency. It is the uneven demand which we often see in our companies from day to day, or sometimes even on a fluctuating basis based upon the seasonal demand or month to month, end of the month, and so on and so forth, as a change in the demand or the fluctuations in the demand. Okay, we fail to normally smooth out the production, and we try to rush as fast as we can from a single batch or large batches to the next, without very little thought on what our customers might actually be requiring. Okay, so that's basically the Mura over here. A typical example of the Mura is to use the example of hockey stick. So if you look in this particular chart, week 1 production is low, week 2 it is high, week 3 is still high, and week 4 you are putting out the maximum efforts over here to produce the maximum things. Okay. Now after the week 4, when you go to the next month, what is happening is the production is actually decreasing dramatically from the week 4 to the week 1 of the next month. Okay, why is that happening? Because in the first week of the month you become already depleted of maybe the supplies or anything which you have consumed it into the last week of the month to meet certain targets. What you could have done is you could have actually balanced out everything in such a way that across the month you are not gaining high burden, or you're not taking the stress to produce maximum in the last week and then fall back on your production, but rather you have an even production cycles. So you don't have the wasted assembly capacity, but rather you have an evenly used assembly capacity. Okay, so that's a very good example of saying that it goes up. It's like a Nike swoosh. It goes up and then shows that how the production goes up at the end of the month, but it drops dramatically on the next week as the first week of the month, next month. Okay. So if we have to reduce the Mura, again, various elements of the Mura have to be looked into, which could be bumpy work or spiky up and down behavior in the production shop floor, unnecessary stop and starts, unequal and unleveled product working behavior. All these kind of the things always will lead to on the shop floor. Okay, so if you have this kind of the unevenness on the shop floor, or you have the Mura on the shop floor, then probably we can look up into certain tools like SMAD, once again, or production labeling, or Haijuka, or Kanban boards, and so on and so forth. So then in that case, these kind of the things can be used for reducing the Mura overall. Okay. So once again, if we look back at the setup reduction, and here I'm going to talk about the batches as well. Then, see, reducing Mura actually can be very difficult. And this is something which a lot of companies are very reluctant and very hesitant to actually tackle it. The belief is that if I run the large economical batches through our production, then we can actually produce more. But it happens oppositely. So they feel that my economical batch size of a large quantity is beneficial to me. Why should I change? If you don't change that, then you can actually have a loss on the shop floor. Okay. What we need to do is we need to smoothen out our production in such a way that our production is consistent and at a predictable rate. If you remember the hockey example, what is happening is I am actually switching to the top in the last week of the month, and then I have an unbalanced and a wasted production capacity in the first week of the next month. Okay. Now every time I do this thing, my setups will have to change, my batch sizes will have to change, and I will not be consistent. But if I have a consistent batch size identified, then my setup time actually can be reduced, and my setup time can rather lead to a higher production overall. Okay. So let's say rather than starting with the week with a large batch of product A, which is the first thing which we are talking about over here, and following it up with the batch B and C through Wednesday and Thursday, and batch D on the Friday, we can actually see some run of each product every day. What we can do is we can build some of every product each day when the customer asks for the product. And that way what happens is that even if the customer in between asks for a different kind of a product, they will not have to wait for that product to be built on a particular day, but rather it will be ready with us, and we can actually produce it for the customer without the maximum interruption and disruption in the production. Okay. This whole strategy has to be planned out in such a way that your setup reductions are done in a correct way and your batch sizes are matched along with that, rather than focusing on one big large batch to optimize the production. This will also call for the product labeling. So like the setup reduction and so on and so forth, even the production labeling, product production also should be labeled. And that can ensure that the conversion time from one product to another are reduced and machines are flexibly retooled. Okay. If we continue to produce a large batch, in this example of the product C, which is the dark blue, and follow it up with an order of the batch size, that is the B and then A, not A, B, C, because that's the size of the batch or the order size, then what will happen is that customer who is wanting the product A, he will have to keep on waiting till the production, product A production starts. Okay, and if he gets too tired, he might even leave you and then go to another supplier. So you run the chance of even losing your business. And on one side, you think that you have done an economic large batch and you're optimizing your production, but in the long run, you have actually lost a customer, and that's a worst thing which can happen to the business. Okay? So that's why the product labeling also becomes a very important part into this. Next is Heijunka boards, and these are the boards or the boxes, and these are simple methods of smoothing out your production planning. Normally what we do is a board will be broken up into the time buckets for the day. So if there is a 24-hour working 3 shifts, then in that case, each hour or half an hour or whatever is the duration required, you will create them as the buckets on the board over here. And work is allocated for each of this bucket of the time, ensuring that everyone knows exactly what should be run at a specific time and how long it will continue to be run for. Okay? So that's what the Heijunka board helps us to ensure. Kanban systems are also used to ensure that your production remains smooth. The Kanban system enables you to pull production through your operations at the speed that the customer is moving products. Okay? It also allows you to match what the customer is taking rather than building parts that customers might want against a schedule. So Kanban and Heijunka, they are the other set of the tools which we use to handle the Mura over here. So having briefly talked about the Mura, I'll now focus out onto Mura which is the fed horse, if you remember from the earlier story of the king and the fed horses. So fed horse, this is something which is actually any kind of a activity or process which does not add any value, is a physical waste of your time or resource and ultimately of your money. That's what we call it as a muda. Okay? And muda was categorized by Taichi Ohno within the Toyota production system, and it was categorized into the 7 waste. Okay? So let's look into the muda as well. Very simple thing to explain it. I think best way to explain the muda would be something that does not add value. Okay, as simple as that. Just to take an example, if we as the customer would get billed for something which we have not bought, will you pay for that? Okay, so let's say we go to a restaurant, we order 5 dishes, but the bill which we get is for the 6 dishes. We definitely would protest, saying that I have taken only 5 dishes. Why am I being billed for the 6th dish? Okay. However, when we buy in a normal way, we normally buy for a lot of, we buy something by paying a certain constant cost, which includes things which we may not want to even pay. Here it was visible to us, so we said that we don't want to pay for the 6th dish. But what if, even for the 5 dish which you're paying, there's a cost which you don't want to pay, like the quality of the dish or the time taken to prepare that, the presentation of that dish to you, and so on and so forth. However, you will still end up paying for those 5 dishes, right? So same way, when a factory produces a good and then sells it to us, there's a lot of inefficiency, a lot of high rejection ratio, and so on and so forth. And all these wastages which are there in the manufacturing process are billed to us as the cost of product. Okay, so and we can do nothing much about that. So that's the cost which actually has added no value to us, but yet we end up paying for it. And that's the muda for us. So before I go more in detail on the muda, let's look at the argument for removing the waste. Your company always will profit, or rather our company's profit would always be coming by a selling price which is less than our cost. Okay, so if I sell something for 10 rupees and my cost of producing is 8 rupees, I have a profit of 2 rupees, right? But however, this 10 rupees is something which I may not be able to dictate it forever. That price is determined by the market. If there is another competitor, he might come back and start selling it at 9 rupees, and maybe third day another competitor might sell it at 8 rupees. And if that happens, and I continue to produce at 8 rupees, I have lost all my competitive edge or all my profits. Okay, so and at the same time, if I continue to sell it for 10 rupees when the competition is offering at 8 rupees, my customer will go away to the guy who is selling it at 8 rupees. Right? So it becomes very important that we improve our profits, and to improve the profits, we reduce our cost. Okay, that means we remove all elements of waste from our processes. In addition to improving your profits, we also need to identify and we also need to recognize that waste also has a major impact on our customer satisfaction with our products and services. Like in restaurant, I may end up paying the money for the 5 dishes, but if the quality is not good, taste is not good, presentation is not good, I may still buy and then pay for it because I was already there, but maybe I will never go back to that restaurant again. So my dissatisfaction with their service will cause that restaurant to lose a customer. Okay. So as customer, we always want the on-time delivery, perfect quality, and the right price. Okay. So that's a fundamental thing. And this is something we cannot achieve if the 7 waste which are defined in the lean are continuously persisting in our organization. So what are these 7 waste? As I said, Taichi Ohno from the Toyota Toyota company actually categorized this waste into the 7+1 categories. And the first 7 categories are transport, the movement of products between the operations and locations, inventory, the work in progress and the stocks of finished goods and raw materials that a company holds, motion, the physical movement of a person or machine while conducting an operation. Wait, that is the act of waiting for a machine to finish, for products to arrive or any other cause. Overproduction, overproducing product beyond what the customer has ordered. Okay. Overprocessing, conducting operations beyond those that customer requires. And defects, which is product rejects and reworks within our own processes. Okay. The eighth one, 7 plus 1, the eighth one is the unused talent, which is failing to utilize the skills and knowledge of all of your employees. So these are the 7 plus 1 waste which occur into any organization. And these are what we call as the MUDA, or the 7 waste. And that is what we have to really eliminate from our organizations. We will look into each of this waste, and we will also try to understand that what can be done to kind of manage them. Okay. So first waste is the waste of transport. Transport, in simple words, is the movement of material from one location to another. And this is actually a waste because it adds no value to the product. Whether my product was, whether my ingredients in the kitchen came from a market 5 kilometers away, or it came from a market maybe 300 meters away, that extra transportation doesn't add any value to my product. Okay, it only adds the cost to it, right? So that's why the transportation is by default a waste, as it adds zero value to the product. Okay, and we as business end up paying people to move the material from one location to another, bring it from 5 kilometers away or bring it from 300 meters away. We have to pay the money for moving the material. So this process only costs the money and makes nothing for you. And waste of transport sometimes can be very high cost to your business. You need people to operate it, and equipment like trucks and forklifts or other things are needed to move around the material into your organization or from outside organization to your organization. Okay, so waste of transport is the first waste which occurs as the lean and is the first MUDA into the 7 MUDAs. So how do we manage the transportation waste? There are certain tools which you can deploy. I'm not going to talk about it. They are already listed here. But essentially, our processes should be close together as much as possible, and material should flow directly from process to process without any significant delay in between. So spaghetti diagram, if you look over here, this shows a zigzag movement, and the material flow analysis over here also helps us to understand the need for improvement into the material flow. And these are some of the tools which we use to identify that where my waste of transportation is occurring and what should be done to remove it. We can also change the layout as per the principles of lean manufacturing. We can create the value streams, and we can make the value flow at the pull of the customer. That means, if you see, I have given some examples of the work style layouts which define how smoothly the operation can become. It doesn't have to do the zigzag, which is being shown in this spaghetti diagram up on the left hand side. Okay. Overproduction is another thing which should be eliminated, which will in turn reduce the amount of the inventory in the system which will need to be transported. If I keep overproducing, then what has to be shipped, then that inventory has to be saved and shipped to certain locations for safekeeping till it is to be used. So that also introduces some kind of the additional transportation. So these are some of the things which we can do to manage our transport waste. The next MUDA is waste of inventory. Okay, and I'm sure everyone would agree that inventory always costs money. Okay, every piece of the product which gets tied up in the raw material or work in progress or as a finished good will always have a cost, and actually until it is sold out, that cost is our own. It cannot be passed on to someone else. That cost passing on happens only when the product gets sold. Okay. So in addition to the pure cost of your inventory, it also adds many other costs, and excess inventory also feeds to many other waste. Okay. Because inventory has to be stored, that means it requires the space. It would require certain packaging also. It will also require some transportation to be done also, right? There are chances that it might get damaged while being transported and may become useless. Okay. So waste of inventory also hides many other wastes into your system. So we should really focus upon to the inventory. And main causes of waste of inventory is that of the waste of overproduction. Always making more than what the customer wants or what the order value is, or in advance of customer demand. We, by these two kind of the things, we link wastage of inventory and wastage of production, and we always lead to further building up higher inventory. We'll talk about the overproduction also, but overproduction will always lead to higher inventory. And sometimes even the inventory can be caused because of the poor layout also. It could be lack of balance into your workflows, which can cause inventory to build up before or after the different processes. And this is always a good indication of poor flow within your processes. So if you have a lot of inventory, it will always say that something is not right into your processes. Flow is not even. Okay, and you should immediately look for that where the flow is being hindered and try to smoothen it out. So how do we manage the waste of inventory? So to reduce the inventory, one, work to the main principle of the lean manufacturing. That is making value flow at the pull of the customer, or in the other words, just in time in production. Okay, you can create the value stream maps over here to identify the flow bottlenecks. You can also do the material flow analysis and diagrams over here to understand how the material is flowing through and so on and so forth. Second, balance your production processes to ensure that work in progress does not build up between the processes. Okay. So if one process is moving fast, another process is not moving so fast, it will lead up to inventory build up before the next process takes place. So using the Heizunka boards and so on and so forth, you can identify the bottleneck stations, and then you can address those bottleneck stations and balance your production. Tech time, I don't know how many of you know, tech time is the time interval between what the customer is calling for and what you're producing. And tech time along with the Kanban, we can also use two of these things to ensure that we balance our processes and prevent the build-up of inventory. Okay? So these are some of the things which we can also do to manage the inventory. There are other tools which you can also put up. SMAD also helps you again, because if my setup time is taking too long, then again I will not be able to kind of block the stop the inventory from getting built up before that particular process. So if you reduce the inventory, it will also help you to reduce some of the other wastages, which are hidden by the high inventory, which we talked about earlier also. Transportation, weight, overproduction, and so on and so forth. The next muda is waste of motion. Unnecessary motions are those motions of man or machine which are not as small or as easy to achieve as possible. And by this I mean bending down to retrieve heavy objects at the floor level when they could be at the waist level, and so on and so forth. A lot of ergonomics which can reduce the stress as well as the time to retrieve. Okay. Also, excessive travel between the workstations, excessive machine movements from a start point to work start point. They are all examples of the waste of motion. All these waste of motions cost you time, because there is time involved in traveling from one point to another and so on and so forth, which is later on always can be monetized, and you can always say that it is some money which you have lost. It always causes stress on your employees and machines, and these heavy motions have to be kind of controlled. Motion also of a waste also has a long history. This actually was highlighted in a book called Motion Studies by Frank Gilbreth, and way back in the beginning of the 20th century, he wrote this particular book, and he observed that in the construction, bricklayers bending to lift the heavy bricks from the floor level and then delivering the bricks to the workers at the level they were required, that itself made a huge increase in the working efficiency as well as reduce the strain, including the injuries to the workers. Okay, so motion is definitely one area which we definitely have to really work upon. How do we manage the motion waste? While we may not be able to eliminate all the motions within a work site, we can always work to minimize it and make each motion as stress-free as possible. And eliminating the waste of motion, we can even implement the 5S. 5S will challenge your team to review each and every step of your operations and also eliminate the symptoms of the sudden waste. Standardize the operations by developing the SOPs, and these SOPs can again define the best way to conduct a specific operation and will also reduce the motions over there. A good SMAD also will remove any wasteful motions from your setup processes. Then ergonomic working is another major area of improvement, which can also help you to reduce the motions as well as the fatigue into the workers over here. Okay. There's the last thing which I have also identified here as a method improvement. What has happened in this case is that two stations were at a distance, and that led to excessive movement between these two stations. Now, as such, you would say only 1.25 meter movement, but if you take through the entire day and the multiple times this movement happens, it actually can run into probably a kilometer of the walking between two stations during the day. Okay. So moving it around in such a way, redesigning your work cell or positioning the machines or improving the methods also can reduce these kind of emotions, and we can reduce the waste over here. The next Muda is the waste of waiting, and waste of waiting always disrupts the flow. And this is, if you recall the principles of lean manufacturing, creation of the flow is very vital. And if that flow itself is getting disrupted by waiting, then it is going to lead to a lot of wastage. So waiting is nothing but the act of doing nothing or working slowly while we have to wait for a previous step in the process to get completed. Okay, so this could be because of multiple reasons. It could be because of the long changeovers. It could be because of the unreliable processes. It could be between, the batch completion is not happening in the proper way, and the time required to perform the rework is also forcing the other process to wait. It could be any kind of a reason which leads to the waste of the weight over here. To reduce this particular waste, what we can do is we can balance our production processes using the tech time and the Yamazumi boards. This ensures that the processes are matched with regards to the cycle times, and we can improve our machine reliability and quality using the TPM and the quality tools. We can also reduce the overproduction and inventory to minimize the transportation and movement between and within the cells. We can also implement better SOPs to ensure that the standards and methods are clear to everybody involved into it. We can establish the visual methods of planning combined along with the daily cell meetings to ensure that everyone is clear on what is required for the day. So these are some of the steps which we can do and some of the tools which we can deploy to minimize or manage our weight waste. The next and very important waste is the waste of overproduction. Okay. So overproduction is, what is that? So overproduction is making products in too great a quantity before it is actually needed, leading to excess inventory. My order could be of 5 dishes, and I make 6 dishes, assuming that you might consume the 6th dish. Now that 6th dish, if I don't consume, becomes my overproduction, because my order was only for 5, right? Or I might actually, produce 10, assuming that there will be another guy who will come in after me and he would also consume the 5. So I produce 10 instead of the actual order of only 5. So extra 5 is excess inventory for us, and that's the overproduction. Overproduction is the worst of the 7 waste because it blocks all the other problems within your processes. It all gets hidden behind the overproduction. So that's another thing which we focus upon. And overproduction also happens because we are working with oversized batches, and that leads to the long lead times. This also sometimes can be because of the poor supplier relations, and there can be multiple reasons why we want to do the overproduction. Okay. Sometimes the supplier may not be able to supply me within a stipulated particular time, and for that particular reason, I may want to, build up the inventory and also produce certain things in advance so as that weight doesn't, hurt us when the supplies are blocked. But whatever it is, all these things leads to the overproduction. And overproduction leads to the high level of inventory, and that masks or that hides, again, a lot of problems within our organization. So our aim should always be that we make only what is required, when it is required by the customer, and we should use the philosophy of just in time, and use it not from the supplier angle only, but also use it from the customer angle also. So that's waste of production, overproduction. How do we manage it? Many things we can do. There are several tools which can be used, but first thing we have to do is that we have to realize that we are often planning our own delays and large batches just because we have always done so. We always think, oh, I have always produced the 10 dishes and they always get consumed at the end of the day. So why worry about it? Always make the 10 dishes, right? So we need to first of all realize that order was only for 5. We don't have to make it for 10. Please do it only for 5. Okay? We need to identify the value streams. We need to map the processes. We need to create this spaghetti diagrams. All these things will tell us that are we doing the things in the right way or not. Okay? We need to make the value flow by rearranging our workplace, by creating the right kind of the production cells that can contain all of the required processes and moving away from the functional layouts. Okay? Most of the time we have a very, very rigid functional layout and it is not aligned to the actual value stream which should be looked into. So that becomes another important part. We need to address the setup time on our equipments to enable that production can be done of the smaller batches also. If we continue to manufacture the large batches, and we don't have an efficient way of switching over between the small batches, then that will also always lead to the overproduction. So using the SMAG, which will help us to quickly and smoothly move over from one batch to another, and thereby that manage the smaller batches becomes also very important. And last, I would say we need to use the Kanban to enable the pull of production through our processes rather than the push of our production to the customer. So we need to have the Kanban also deployed over here. So these are some of the tools and the ways in which we can manage the production over waste. Okay. Over processing, that's the next Muda. And over processing is adding more value to a product than what the customer actually requires. Example would be, I would be painting the area of a machine which will never be, exposed to the corrosion. But I'll take an extra precaution and say, I'll paint the machine inside out totally in depth and shine them like the finish of the car from the front. I'll do it even inside of the car in the bottom. Now, there I don't need that level of the finish. I need something which will ensure that there is no corrosion. That's about it. But I go ahead and still do the polishing and I do that kind of a finish. That's an over processing. So waste of over processing happens when we use the inappropriate techniques, oversized equipment, working to the tolerances that are too tight, or perform processes which are not even required by the customer. Okay? And one of the biggest example of over processing in most of the companies is of the mega machine that can do any operation faster than anything else. Okay? But what happens is, while this mega machine can produce something very fast, every process has to be, that flow has to be routed through the entire set of the other equipment also. And that itself sometimes can create the station bottlenecks. It can also create the complications into schedules and cause the delays and so on and so forth by default, and lead to the inventory build-up and wait and so on and so forth. Right? So that whole concept that mega machine doing the large batches in one go, okay, doing it to the final finance which customer doesn't need it, there is no utility of it. All these things always are the over processing. In Lean, we always say that the small is beautiful. Okay? We need to use the small appropriate machines where they are needed in the flow and not break the flow in rule through a very highly expensive machine that people keep coming back and say, oh, you have a larger machine, you can produce more. No, sometimes big is not beautiful, small is beautiful. And Lean always leans on the small. So how do we manage our over processing? So some of the things which we can do, we can enforce that we have the right SOPs and they're provided along with the written instructions. SOPs will also ensure that there is a standardization of methods across the shifts, persons, machines, operations, and so on and so forth. Provide the on-the-job training to everybody. We need to establish necessary quality standards to clarify the specifications and acceptance standards. We need to review designs with techniques such as value engineering and value analysis to identify the opportunities to remove tolerances that are too tight. We need to examine our process rules and so on and so forth. So these are some of the things by which we can manage the over processing. The seventh waste is the waste of defects. And this is the most obvious defect or the most obvious waste, sorry, not defect, which everybody sees and is very easy to detect. So that is what everybody focuses on, defects. What are defects? Defects are when the products or services deviate from what the customer requires or from the specifications. Okay? Quality errors also can cause the defects, and those defects invariably cost you far more than what we think that defect costs us. So every defective item would require some rework, some replacement. If the defect reaches all the way to the customer, then the cost of repairing that defect at the customer side keeps on going up. And all this requires the resources, material, paperwork, and so on and so forth. So everything is a waste if a defect is produced. Okay? So waste of defect should be prevented wherever possible, and it is better to prevent than to try to detect them. So implementation of Poka-Yoke or any other kind of automation and so on and so forth can also help us to prevent the defects from occurring. So let's look into how do we manage the defects. So as I said, variety of the tools can be used into this. Use of the automation of the Jidoka to Poka-Yoke devices that detect if a product is defective, which can either prevent the process from running or highlight the defect in the action. All these things must be used. Standard operating procedures and training must be carried out to ensure that the correct methods are undertaken and the standards are achieved. We should also empower our teams to solve and prevent their own problems. And by harnessing the talents of our employees, we can also quickly and efficiently prevent the occurrence of the defects. So all these kind of the things also should be put in place. There are multiple tools also which we can put in, and then there are also the empowerment of the people and the standardization and so on, which also can help us to control our defects wastage. The eighth wastage. I'm sorry, we are going to run over the time by around 5 or 7 minutes, so please bear with me. Waste of talent, that's the 7+ waste. This is the 8th waste. And waste of talent is, I could call it even the creativity of your people or the knowledge of your people, right, which we are not able to utilize into our organization. Right? That's the waste of talent. Our people are the most valuable resources, and these resources have to be used very judiciously and leveraged to the maximum. Our people's creativity and talent is normally wasted due to a number of reasons, and that could be from having the wrong culture that fails to recognize the strength and contribution of our employees. Even some companies try to recognize their employees' contribution, but they often fail to provide the sufficient time and resources so that they can actually perform better. Okay? Sometimes even the company policies are inappropriate, and those company policies do not let the improvements come in because of sometimes even the bureaucracy or the blocks at the middle level management or encouraging the wrong type of behavior in the workforce. There can be many reasons why those company policies also are not able to check the wastage of our talent. Sometimes there is also fear in some of the companies that if our people are overtrained and too involved, they will also expect higher wages, and if we don't provide them the higher wages, then they will leave, which will mean that what we have trained them on, the benefit will go to our company. So whatever reason, sometimes we do not leverage our people to the right level. So what we can do? We can do many things. Among them, few things which I would focus upon is that we have to encourage the team working. We have to train them properly, and we also have to have clear leadership to drive our employees for better results. We need continuous improvement, and for that we need to involve each and every of our employees. It cannot be just few heroes, but everybody has to be engaged into that. We have to encourage the people to take ownership of their own areas, processes, and products, which can also promote a sense of pride and involvement. And we have to nurture them and involve them into the business process. So if we do that, then we can also leverage our talents more effectively. Okay. So we talked about the 7+1 wastages, which are the Muda. We talked about the Mura. We talked about the Muri. So if I sum it up, managing Muda will require a clear focus on Muri and Mura. We can use several lean tools like 5S, TPM, SMAT, Hijuka, standardization, Judoka, visual control, scan paths, and so on and so forth, which can be helpful into actually containing the Muri and Mura. So what did we go through today? We learned, I'm going in a slightly reverse order now, Muda, which is the 7 wastages. Those 7 wastages I would sum up again as transportation, weight, overproduction, overprocessing, inventory, motion, and defects, and the 8th wastage of the tag. Okay. The second Mura, which we talked about, is the uneven working. Sometimes we may feel that we have got the fluctuating orders, but on the shop floor, if we don't even out our production, then we will always have a trouble, and it will lead to one or the other kind of the wastage, either overprocessing, overproduction, weight, transportation, inventory build-up. One or the other wastage will start coming in if we don't level out our production over there. And the third one, which we talked about, is the Muri, which is the overburden, and that also has to be taken out. The stress from the system has to be removed from the overall working. So, as we talked extensively, while everyone tries to focus on 7+1 wastage, we need to also look at the causes of them, which are usually the Muri and Mura. A good manufacturing operation would always try to balance these 3 ends and either eliminate them or reduce them to the minimal levels. Okay. While all of these things look very simple to act upon, it always would require intense efforts to manage them, and it also requires good knowledge of the various lean tools, ability to contextualize them and apply them in the right perspective. Intelligent and Oro University, we can always help you to look at your Muri Muda in your organization. We can help you to train your teams. We can help you to improve your manufacturing operation efficiencies and even manage this Muri Muda. And we can look up at how we can help you to improve your organizational capacity. So thank you everyone for listening in. If there are any questions, we can take them up. I'm sorry, we have overrun the time. This is a large topic. There are more things which can be discussed, but probably this is what we would like to stop. So thank you everyone. Thank you, Kishore. If there are any questions, then I can take them up now. Kishore, you are on mute.
Am I audible, sir, now?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir, for such a wonderful presentation. We have a few questions coming in. The first one is, what is the right sequence? Is it Muda, Mura, Muri, or Muri, Mura, and Muda?
So right sequence is actually Muri, Mura, and Muda. Okay. You have to first look for the overburden in the system, recognize and understand the overburden itself. Then identify this itself, when you have the overburden identified, that itself will identify several wastages which might already be there. Then second, you look for the unevenness. This will again identify further more Muda, which are hiding behind these two things, unevenness and the overburden. And then finally look at the Muda to start reducing them. So the right sequence is the Muri, Mura, and Muda.
Okay, sir. The second question comes in, what is
sorry, I missed out. What is
Hejunka?
Haijunka. Okay. Haijunka is actually Japanese word for labeling, and it is the part of the lean methodology of process improvement. This helps organizations to match the unpredictable customer demand, customer demand patterns rather, and eliminate the manufacturing waste by labeling the type and quantity of production output required over a fixed period of time. So, in other words, it's a production labeling system, or a Japanese word for that called Haijunka.
Okay, sir. Second question is, I would like to know the full form of SMED, that is SMED, and Jidoka.
Single minute exchange of die is the SMED. Jidoka is a term by itself, there is no full form into that. And Jidoka is a kind of an automation which can be part of your machine either as a retrofit or as part of the basic machine design. And that is essentially designed to detect any kind of a defect, whether it is a laser scanning or any kind of other scanning and so on and so forth, or any other mechanism. And thereby that raise a warning or raise a alert, or maybe even sometimes stop the machine so that that defect doesn't pass through to the next stage of processing. So that's Jidoka. Jidoka is again a Japanese term over here. Okay.
Thank you. The next question, how can Muri or overburden in system can be identified?
So actually identifying the Muri is very, very simple. And that's something which we all miss out. Okay. So if I want to identify the Muri, simply look for the employees who are feeling overwhelmed or stressed out, or you have the machines constantly running around, or when you talk to the workers or you listen to the workers talking to each other, you see a lot of frustration or anger between them. They feel a lot of burden on them. That's where something definitely is not happening. And that's where there is something overburden in the system. So one of the key reasons for employee disengagement or decreased productivity is this burden or this stress, right? Sometimes we also call it, like my employees are burnt out. My employees cannot take anything anymore. So that behavior is what I would say is the first indication that there is some kind of a Muri existing in your system. Okay? So that's the best way to start identifying the Muri into the organization.
Thank you. The next question, what is the difference between Jidoka and mistake proofing?
Jidoka is as I said, is an automation which goes onto the machine to identify a defect which has happened and stop the that defect to move on to the next process. Whereas the mistake proofing is a mechanism by which, or there is a Japanese term called pokayoke, which basically is to ensure that the mistake itself doesn't happen. Okay. So if you're doing something, for an example, you have the 3 types of the material and you have to feed them into the machine, and there is a particular sequence in which you have to do it, then can the material be positioned in such a way that the first material is placed first and the last material is placed a little away. So you, by naturally, you are picking up the first material next to you and then the second and then the third. Or let's say there is a color coding to identify that which material goes where. So how do you ensure that there is no mistake while doing something? You mistake proof something, or you ensure that the mistakes don't take place is the mistake proofing or pokayoke. So that's different from Jidoka. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So we are done with the questions. So I think we come here to the end of the session. Thank you, Atul sir, for praising us on the concept that is Mura, Muri, Muda. One of the most important goals of lean manufacturing is the elimination of waste. Taichi Ono, that is father of the Toyota production system, which is widely known as TPS, defined these 3 categories of waste. The elimination of waste through various lean tools will add to improve in quality, safety, and efficiency. I'm sure today's session will help us in identifying and removing these waste and thus enhancing our quality, production, safety, and efficiency, and finally adding to the bottom line. I would like to share with all the participants that shortly our university and skill region would be initiating short-term courses. You may like to visit our LinkedIn page wherein we have shared few course details. And our next session will be held on coming Friday, that is 18th of September, same time, that is 4 o'clock. And the topic is Top 25 Lean Tools. I take this opportunity to thank Atul sir for being with us and apprising us on this subject. I would also like to thank all the participants and look forward to see you next Friday. Till then, stay safe. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.